Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today is my Ask Me Anything question, or the Q&A video that I promised. So first question from Raven Corbin. Why don't Primaris have lightning claws? I mean, they are convertible to have lightning claws, but I'm guessing, Raven, that they don't have lightning claws because Games Workshop don't want to, ironically enough, outdo the normal Marines and just make and force everyone to get Primaris. Although they are doing that, I didn't want to do it straight away with Primaris Assault Marines. There are Primaris Assault Marines, but they're more assault support, I'm guessing, with their assault heavy bolters. Scott asks, what's the reasoning behind the gimped weapon choices? And he goes on to explain that he's on about that the normal Marines, again, have a dozen options, yet their so-called cousins are limited to one or two. I reckon this is because they want to make them easier as a first army. And if you think about it that way, you got one or two options to choose from and to give you options with to learn to play before you jump into the deep end and go full heresy. Everything's got... Well, heresy is easier in that respect. We go 20 bolters in this one squad, but then you're up against tanks with armor value 14 and 13, which strength 4 bolters won't touch any day of the week. So yeah, I guess it's because Cole went, Cole and GW, just GW might use Cole as their example, went, this will help define battlefield roles. We'll give you long range guns, we'll give you shorter range guns, and we'll give you plasma guns. Just because they can. So that kind of helps define a battlefield role in some respects. So that you're not going, I've got some Scepters and I don't know how to use them. Or I've got some intercessors and I don't know how to use those. This way you go, intercessors, oh, they're my long range bolt rifle dudes. Yeah, I'll use them to do X, Y, and Z. That's the general gist that I think of anyway. I could be wrong. I most likely am. I'm not a GW employee, so... Justin asks, will you be getting into the new Night Vault stuff? Short answer, no, I won't. Age of Sigmar has very little interest for me at the moment. It's not that I dislike Age of Sigmar, far from it, but it's, yeah, Age of Sigmar seems oversimplified to me in some respects. Abigail Mitchell asks, do I have any other hobbies aside from Warhammer? Yes, I do, and it's reading, playing the guitar, and yeah, pretty much it really for my hobbies. Three's enough for any person, isn't it, really? I mean, I have got a car that I maintain, but that's not really a hobby, that's more of a necessity. I have a question from Kim Ann Lanson. What game was your intro into ward game or role playing? And what do I think is a great game to show someone as their first game? Well, as your first demo game, I guess this ties into to Scott's question, where you have one unit dedicated to one task. and you just have, so you have 5 intercessors, facing off against 20 poxwalkers, for example, as your intro game. Maybe make it 10 versus 20, and that way you've got the same number of wounds, you've got a different number of models, but because Primaris can fire longer and more frequently, maybe take that 10 men down to 5 men, so that there's still enough poxwalkers, to get in base to base with the Primaris at the other end of the board. As for my intro game, that was against my brother when he was playing it, and he used High Elves, I used Bretonians, and the outcome for my first game was a loss for me. But then when we then replayed it a few times, and yeah, I got the charge, and yeah, that was a good game, a fun game, and that got me hooked. And then I went and got some men at arms at a squad of 20 men at arms. That was nice. Yeah, that's a good. And that was back when Games Workshop actually made decent sized boxes for units. You didn't need to get 2 boxes of 1 unit to get a unit. You just got the 1 box. So I made 10 Knights of the Realm, and then I had 10 Knights of the Realm, a damsel on foot and mounted for my ballista pack. I had a battle standard bearer from another ballista, and as I say, and a trebuchet for my Bretonian army. That was a good little army. That didn't play with it that often, but they were frequently led by damsels or prophetesses, because I felt like that was the best thing to do. Ben Carlson asks, which sets would you advise for someone starting out? So, depending on what you want to start collecting, I would either say a start collecting set of the faction that you choose to want to start to play, or either the Forgebane set if you want to try either Necrons or the Adeptus Mechanicus, or the Dark Imperium set for the Primaris, Space Marines, and the Death Guard. Now, I know I've done a ranting video about Games Workshop's pricing and things like that, but they are good value for money. Dark Imperium has the actual thick rulebook in it, so that's worth it for that, really, if nothing else. And if you were to sell those armies, you can get plenty of money for them by selling them on eBay, and you'll make your money back plus a bit extra if you price them right. Mark de Bolivier asks, what do I think about the interactions between 40k and Warhammer Battle? So, 40k and fantasy used to be very similar. And then Games Workshop went and created Age of Sigmar. So now they're not related as well as they once were. Before, Eldar were literally elves in space. The dwarves in fantasy were squats in 40k. The civilization of men, that was Empire, Britannia, Tilia, they all fell under the heading of the Imperium of Man. Space Marines were more than knights in those factions, things like that. That made it easier to understand in some respects that way, and that was partly how I got into Warhammer. Was like, oh, elves in space, nice, and I was hooked from that point on. So yeah, all now though, 40k and fantasy are not so linked. There are theories, and I say theories, that a silver knight, having been spotted in Age of Sigmar, could possibly be a 40k Grey Knight or Caldor Drago. But the chances of that are slim, and I think that was just lazy writing on the writer's part for Games Workshop at the time. So yeah, they're not really I say that relatable anymore. They used to be much more relatable to each other, and with similar styles and statistics and layouts. If you went from fantasy and you went, oh, so everyone moves 6 unless you're on a bike. Okay. Or jump packs can move 6 inches twice, can they? It's the same as a bike. Oh, that's handy. So you had, yes, you got different ways of moving in 40k, but it's the idea that you can walk the 6 inches and then fire jump pack to travel the same distance again, just to help get around the battlefield. Yeah, that's the sort of thing that I've thought of for 40k, and in fantasy, usually speaking, men moved 4 inches, knights moved 8, elves, being faster, again, moved faster. So, again, everyone had their ups and downs. Like, if you had a heavily armoured knight, the horse might move 8 inches, but because he's wearing armour, the weight of that slows him down, so he can move 7 inches instead. But if you got a horse that was bred for war, a war horse, most armies did, but some didn't, then the horse doesn't feel that weight of the armour, so you can still charge as you would normally. Little things like that, split them apart enough to make it different without being too obvious that they were just copy pastes. I say copy pastes. The old ones created both worlds, and then you have the elder races, the Necrons and the elves and Eldar and Lizardmen kind of fall into those. The Necrons and Eldar for 40k, Lizardmen and Elves for fantasy. Chaos was in both, and was the only faction in both that could be fielded in either system, which was unique to them, especially in demons. The demons got you could field demons on both sides and just change your base from square to round, quite literally. So yeah, that was quite handy for demon collectors. Yeah, just things like that